incredibly narcissistic of us on Earth to think that we're the only intelligent beings in the cosmos. I just think it's like mind-boggling that we would think we are it. Really? We're it? I don't think so.
I totally agree with you. It's totally egotistical about all of this. So vocal profiling live, and I have 3 things that I would like to share with people, and I think everybody's going to get ticked off at this. Thank you, Moon, for suggesting that I record this. Again, as usual, I forgot. I had a call. This is 3 things that have ticked me off here. I got a call the other day, and some guy said he was from the Veterans Administration, and he wanted $35 from me to help pay for our soldiers' helmets to make them more safe and more comfortable. I was not nice to this person because I thought it was a total ripoff. And then somebody sent me an email about it, probably the same guy. But there really is a movement about traumatic brain injury that the government doesn't provide helmets that are safe or comfortable because, I'll just read this. Government-issued military helmet pads are much too hard and cause severe headaches under the weight of the combat helmet. As a result, combat troops on patrol or convoy take their helmets off or release the chin straps for pain relief. Hard to concentrate on a dangerous job when you have a migraine-type headache anyway. They say that these protective things that they did have at one time, the government quit using them because they thought they were more expensive, and they went to a cheaper, harder wrapped helmet, and it's causing a lot of strife. So here's this organization asking for $35 so that they can make our soldiers' helmets more comfortable. Now, in the light of $200 hammers and $80 toilet seats, you tell me why the government can't provide a helmet that is both safe and comfortable for our own soldiers. You know, we threw a fit on this show once before when we found out they have to pay for their own gun, their own uniform, sometimes their own food and their own housing. Now they're having to pay for their own helmet to keep them safe. This is crazy. Go beat up one of those Solyndra people that took all those millions that they got from the government and took off and closed their company, and get these soldiers some help. You're on, Richard, because I'm ticked here.
Well, you can bet, the direct model is if you can bet that it's not cutting into the profit margin of whatever Blackwater Operations is called, that company that just keeps changing its name, rebranding itself as the new improved something or other, that it's not cutting into their profit margins of the companies that are, part of the machine that makes money off of war, is losing their profit margins, but, soldiers are not being protected. They're not being given armor, correct, I don't know what those are called, armor things. Bulletproof jacket sounds so simplistic, but, any kind of correct armor. I mean, it's just all about saving money. It just is disgusting.
Well, saving money for who?
For the people who, the providers of the service that have got the government contract to produce the product. They probably produce a crappy helmet because it costs less. I could be completely wrong. That's just my opinion.
Andrew is asking a question here. Andrew, we went to the internet to find out, and there's no fraud reports from them. Better Business Bureau reports that they're fine and that this really is true. This guy that called me on the phone, I didn't believe him at all. And then, do you get that little booklet with your Sunday newspaper? This is in Parade, and it says, upgrade a soldier's helmet. For $35, you can provide a service member cushioning helmet to protect against traumatic brain injury. Operation-helmet, HELMET.org. It really is an organization. This is a true, your government is stupid report. Well, that's one that I wanted to share. Next one is It just shows how crazy people can be. This is the headline. School cancels Operation Christmas Child over lawsuit threats. A South Carolina charter school has canceled its annual Christmas toy drive after a group of self-described humanists complained that the project violated the U.S. Constitution and accused them of bribing children to convert to Christianity. The letter serves notice to policymaking school officials of the East Point Academy's unconstitutional conduct, and as a demand, the school terminated all of its promotion, sponsorship, endorsement, or affiliation with Operation Christmas Child immediately. Now, this is letting somebody else push you around, isn't it? Who makes your decisions for you? You're not free when somebody allows you not to contribute. I mean, why can't they call this child toy season or something? This is just stupid beyond stupid. Do you have any comment, Richard?
No, I'm still fuming that I unfortunately went to the operation-helmet.org, and what I was reading just, caused flames to come out my ears about, these guys talking about, and this is in the same category of, it just seems like the greed monsters are in charge, and as long as the greed monsters get their money, everybody else can just fall in place and do whatever they think is necessary to make sure that their stockholders make the highest profit margin. Once again, this is just my opinion.
Greed, 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 greed.
Ooh.
We've got so many people saying things here. This is, Ann Richards writes in, the same people who tell you your child cannot bring to school the lunch you packed for them. The community should pick up and do the drive. Absolutely. These people are saying that what we can have Muslim stuff in our school. Remember, we talked about a couple of weeks ago. They put a whole chapter about Muslim in the new textbooks for these kids, but they didn't put any Christianity or Judaism or any of the other Christian religions. I mean, it is just, we're being pointed in a direction. Remember what Hitler said about you get the youngsters and indoctrinate them, and then you got it made. Okay, in talking about what Ann just posted, and people in the chat are furious, and I don't blame them. Look at this. This is an article. Police food in Manitoba schools are putting on the Ritz, fining parents. I'm going to read from a note they sent home, and this was a youngster, a little kid, and I think it's too much food anyway, but it says, to Natalie and it looks like Logan, lunchbox supplement note. Today, your child's lunch was supplemented with Ritz crackers, meals that are provided to children by either the center or parent are required to have 1 milk, 1 meat, 1 grain, and 2 fruits and vegetables. Now, for a kindergarten kid, that's way too much food anyway. According to licensing guidelines, the center is required to supplement lunches that contain anything less than this. You were missing 1 grain, and so we added Ritz crackers. You had a meat, a potato, a milk, carrots, and an orange, and your account will be charged $10. Parents will be charged $5 per child per item missing if the child's lunch is not a balanced meal according to the Canadian Food Guide effective April 17th, 2012. That's crazy. They think Ritz crackers is going to add to that? Good Lord. All right, I'm off my soapbox, but things like that are just so, they're beyond stupid. They're going to say ketchup is a vegetable. I wouldn't want my kids having Ritz crackers and full of all that bad fat.
Well, and that's a great thing that Steve points out in chat. He's talking about also the Ritz crackers contain GMO. Well,
Yes.
of course they, yeah, that's part of the, pushing of the machine. The corporate machine is, GMOs are good, GMOs this, GMOs that. I was at a conference where they're talking about some really scary stuff called skin bios, which make GMOs look like, oh yeah, just that. So, I mean, I'm just in a bad mood about, follow the money, take a lobbyist to lunch and don't bring them back.
Richard, do you believe what your government tells you anyway, that it's okay to give Ritz crackers to your kids?
No. Why would that? I mean, that makes no sense. No.
Do you believe them about anything?
You me on my soapbox. You just want to drag me up on top of that. No, I don't. I think that's horrible.
I don't believe them about much of anything.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't believe them about UFOs, where they're trying to tell people Ritz crackers have godless sodium. Absolutely. I will try to follow this up and see what's going on. But I think it's outrageous that a bunch of people got together, and I'm talking about our government, the people who are trying to run it, the 500 and some people at the top. And I'm including both houses and Senate and Congress and the president and whatever. They got together and let's see just how much we can control people. How placid are they that we can control what they breathe, what they eat, find them for school lunches. We don't want to have to supply money to the schools, so let's have them find the parents for the lunches. Now, we did a thing on Chicago where the kids are not even allowed to bring their own lunch, and the parents had sent in something they didn't like. Meat, bologna. They sent in a bologna sandwich because that was the kids' favorite food. And the school didn't like it, so they substituted with chicken McNuggets and then find the parents. I just think that, yeah, let's pick our battles carefully. Well, it's not my kids. If it was, I would be out there kicking butt. Because I just think...
Oh, Ed, I think that to sort of move toward an uphill, but I do want to get to the UFOs, is that at least I'm in Northern California, and there's an organization up here called Marine Organic, and what they do is they have a relationship with the farmers, and what they do is that they go out, when the farmers go out and pick their crops, there's things that they leave in the field that are not at all called pretty enough to sell at the farmer's market. So immediately after they're through harvesting, this nonprofit group goes in with volunteers and picks up all that produce. It isn't pretty enough, but it's still fine, totally viable. It's not decorative, it doesn't look nice enough. And so that program now feeds approximately 20,000 kids a week in the East Bay, in the San Francisco Bay Area. With that produce. They give it to school.
That's wonderful. I want to know how we can support that.
That's all organic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, what do you want to know about UFOs? You said you're interested.
Well, I'm curious. I certainly have some vocal profiles of people talking about, like I see the name here, I see this description about Buzz Aldrin. I'm, fascinated with if you run his VP and what he has to say about, or what he talked about and what he thinks about UFOs, because, I have a feeling that so many of the astronauts have made comments about something from either spiritual or alluded to something, especially the older ones, because they tend to get more ignored. They've all seemed to have some kind of experience that eventually just gets swept under the rug because .gov doesn't want it to be talked about. So it seems.
Well, we have all of these things where people claim they've had encounters. They've been swept up in a spaceship or whatever. But these guys have actually been up there. And since you ask about, we'll just start with him because, I voted for Jimmy Carter because he said he was going to release all the UFO information. And then he got in there and then nothing. And he wouldn't release anything. But we've got email that says, you're just a screwball, don't mess with that. You're a quack, well, I was trying to think of the worst thing they called me, but I can't. And then there's other ones that express not knowing, but most of the time people just want to know what's really real. And for most of you, you know we can look at people's voice print and tell whether they're real or not. So Richard wants to start with astronaut Buzz Aldrin, and I do have this up. Let's listen to just a little bit of what he's saying. This is very short.
About 3 days and 200,000 miles into the flight, Mission Control did miss the significance of a cryptic message from the astronauts.
Yeah, the idea was what I did was
The crew required information on the composition of the S-4B, the final stage of the rocket, which had been jettisoned away 2 days earlier. This short message hid an extraordinary turn of events. Apollo 11 wasn't alone in space.
There was something out there that was close enough to be observed, and what could it be?
That's Buzz Aldrin.
Alongside Apollo 11 was a mysterious object, like this one filmed on an mission. If the object wasn't part of Apollo's rocket, it could be only one thing: a UFO.
Mike decided he thought he could see it in the telescope, and he was able to do that. And when it was in one position, it had a series of ellipses. But when you made it real sharp, it was sort of bell-shaped. That didn't tell us very much.
NASA knew very little about the object reported by the Apollo 11 crew. It was obviously an unidentified object, but such objects were not that common. The history of orbit space flights going back over the previous years indicated that several groups saw objects. Despite a more clear view of the UFO, the crew were wary of reporting to Mission Control.
Now, obviously, the three of us were not going to blurt out, "Hey, Houston, we got something moving alongside of us, and we don't know what it is. Can you tell us what it is?" We weren't about to do that because we know that those transmissions would be heard by all sorts of people. And, who knows what somebody would have demanded that we turn back because of aliens or whatever the reason is. So we didn't do that, but we did decide, we just cautiously asked Houston, how far away was the S4B?
Unaware of the drama unfolding in space, Mission Control radioed the position back to Apollo 11.
Apollo 11, Houston, the S4B is about 6,000 nautical miles from in Ann Arbor.
And a few moments later, when they came back and said something like it was 6,000 miles away because of the humans. So we didn't think we were looking at something that far away. So we decided after a while of watching it, we time to go to sleep and not to talk about it anymore. So we came back and debriefing.
To this day, whatever it was the crew saw has never been positively identified or officially acknowledged. The possibility that you might encounter aliens in space has to be considered in a very sensible, positive, and realistic way. There were a lot of people in the program who went off later and became convinced that UFOs existed. And that led to some concern on NASA's part that they got the agreement to never to publicly talk about these things for fear of ridicule.
Now, we did Buzz Aldrin's voice, and for those of you sharing and watching with us on our WebEx, if you want to see those pictures, we put that link, I think we put that link up in the chat. Let me see if we did. Let me go to the top. I will have this also on a paper so that when they publish all of this tomorrow on the site, you guys can look at it. And I'm putting in the link right now. And the mail is coming in fast and furious here. They tell the president to get to boy, I'm going to say that and look at all of it. But this is what Buzz Aldrin's voice looks like. It's very heavily emotional on a level of humanity when you just look at the columns. But when you look at the numbers, and I'm using Nano Voice, go to our site, soundhealthoptions.com, go to downloads and download Nano Voice. Go get this off the internet and look for it, look at it yourself, and you can see. Now, he has a very solid foundation. F sharp is where he lacks a foundation, and F sharp is about what do I do about what just happened here. So he really believes what he's saying emotionally, but has some doubts intellectually. His ego, and I'm reading what was written here in his report, his ego on a highly spiritual level is solidly involved. He has a firm belief in what he saw, but logical awareness that he cannot explain what he saw. Therefore, he thinks that he should be doubted. His gut level emotions and system of integrity is well grounded, with the exception he has some issues around people asking too much of him and expecting him to take care of things for them. For the benefit of people, he wants his statement about seeing a UFO to be believed. Okay, Richard, according to him, are UFOs real or figments of our imagination?
No, they're, as I look at that numbers chart, the numbers graph on the Nano Voice, which I really like the numbers, I mean, he has a really solid foundation. He's perplexed, and I would imagine he would be perplexed because if you think about what an astronaut has to go through in terms of training and to be a pilot and the kind of, they're very, very rows and columns and checklists and technical and left brain dominant kind of thinking. But I mean, in the numerical chart, he's very founded in what he's saying. He's very much believing what he's saying. He doesn't know what to do with it necessarily, but he really, that seems like he's really well founded.
He is, from what I can see. He believes in what he's saying, but his ego is in some doubt. This is cognitive dissonance. He sees it. It happened to him, but he still doesn't believe it and doesn't think other people are going to believe it either. Let's go to the other side and look at a non-believer. And this is a radio show from a friend of mine, Jay Perrone, and he did a show of James McKinney, who claims to be an abductee. And when I put this show together last week, there's 3 or 4 pieces of information on the internet about him. And once I put it out that this was false, all that was taken down. So the first here, you'll hear JP talk about this guy, and then I'll stop this and we'll go on and look at his voice.
Things should go down a little easier after that. So without any further ado, this is Jim McKinney.
There seems to be some serious observation going on in the southern hemisphere and leaks coming out all over the place. It does appear that groups of military and professional astronomers are openly active, let's say, at the Wormwood location in Australia. Well, of course, that's what I've been saying all along. The indicators were all there, and now there are reports that a mini solar system is coming into ours. Basically, be prepared.
So as we look at his nano voice, there is very little foundation. By that, when you open your new nano voice, you'll see a blank blue screen with notes at the bottom, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then numbers appearing, numbers and columns appearing. Somebody has their mic open. I need to take care of that. Or was that you, Richard, laughing?
Not me.
Oh, I see.
Only in my mind was I laughing. I was chuckling in my mind, that's for sure.
Okay, I shut off the mic. So, Richard, you've taken our classes. How would you interpret this nano voice that we're seeing?
Well, he's got a nice fat level of, ego, that whole string of ego up there, and that row right there where he's just, the phrase I would use is that it's all about me.
Well,
it's not about what he's actually talking about, but it's like recognition of me. Look, me. It's about me.
This is all fantasy when the voice is separated like that. And what he is announcing is there's a mini solar system coming and that the Australian government knows about it and they're taking care of it. That's not true. He has very little foundation down at the bottom. 296 under A, which means management. He hopes to be able to help manage that in some way. He truly believes that he is some kind of, or wants people to believe that he's some kind of savior and can put the kibosh on anything that's not safe for them. When you look at the top numbers, which are totally separated, and that in itself, because these things are very literal, says there's a lack of connection to hard reality. So I think we can conclude that that guy is probably not telling the truth about his own involvement or even what he sees. And Steve says, George, maybe some of the stress of UFO debriefing accounts for some of the gray hair all the president seems to get. Well, that's a good thing.
There's an interesting question in chat, over at Blog Talk Radio. Somebody's asking, how can you tell the difference between a drone and a UFO? I don't know that we have the answer there. I just think it's an interesting question.
It is. I don't know if drones can be that high up in orbit where things are going on.
I can see how you get them confused, but from my understanding about how drones are and operate, they're very different in terms of their maneuverability. They're more slow and methodical, and UFOs have always traditionally been seen as, very agile. And I don't think of drones as that agile.
Well, in some of these that we're going to listen to, these things are right outside the window of the spacecraft that they're in and doing maneuvers that match everything that they're doing. So that's kind of freaky. Okay, the next one, I'm going to go from belief to non-belief and belief to non-belief. So people can make up their own mind. But this is a vocal print of the former Canadian Minister of Defense as he's talking about UFOs. And there's a transcript in this one also that says, I wish I were in a mood for good humor, but I am not. We are hell-bent in the direction of destroying our planet, and we appear to be doing precious little about it. Decades ago, visitors from other planets warned us about where we're headed and offered to help. But instead, we, or at least some of us, interpreted their visits as a threat and decided to shoot first and ask questions afterward. The inevitable result was that some of our planes were lost, but how many were due to retaliation and how many were the result of our own stupidity. Wilbur Smith, one of the first Canadians to take an active interest in the subject of UFOs, asked the visitors about the accidental destruction of an aircraft. And so this is where we stopped and went ahead and took, I don't see a link here, but I will find it for you. I don't see it quickly, I should say. But when we look at his chart, he's very much right brain. He's very much into that note of A, management, on a emotional level, and very much interested in how all of this is going to play out in humanity. Oh, here's the link. I'll put this in the chat for everybody. Well, that was the last one. I gotta get this one again. The last one was the Buzz Aldrin. There it is. He is speaking at the 4th annual conference, Hilton Hotel in Gaithersburg, Maryland, on April 19th, 2008. The X conference is sponsored by the Paradigm Research Group, which is dedicated to disclosure of the truth about extraterrestrial presence on Earth. At this conference, Heller, founder of the Canadian Action Party, former Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, former Minister of Defense, and other cabinet positions in previous Canadian governments, was honored for an award. The transcript at the end talked to the pilots. Reads of this Minister Heller talked to the pilots of the alien spacecraft. The chart indicates a need for management surrounding such incidents that he is familiar with and also has no concrete plan for such management. Now, it's obvious, well, from his voice and what he says in this speech, that he was briefed and that he has no idea whatsoever about how to take care of it, but he is very concerned for humanity and the management of this. So in looking at this, I would think that this man knows something. He believes that there are UFOs and other contactees, because if you read the transcript, it's like he's had a conversation with these guys. Richard, what do you think?
I think, well, and conversation could be in very loose quotes. I mean, I think that, telepathic communication, any kind of communication is possible, but in this case, by looking at the numbers on his chart, we're still on Alex. It just doesn't match up. It's him talking about, it's all about him, and in that wobbly area of, what I'll call creative thinking.
Did I shut it down? Did I shut it down too soon? As people were looking at it?
Yeah.
Where do you see about him? It's about himself.
About the number? I'm better with the numbers than the colors.
I don't have the numbers here. I should put those in.
Oh, you don't? I'll do that. I always like looking at the numbers. It's all right brain. It's very creative. It's all right brain. There doesn't seem to be a lot of linear quality to what he's talking about. He just seems to be, I don't know, tricky.
We took several pieces out of the transcript that you see here. And it was nearly all the same. He believed in what was going on. Just like Buzz Aldrin, they saw this thing, they filmed it, they took pictures of it. It was right outside the window. He's there with it. You can't. I wonder why they think the public is so stupid, George, that they think that we couldn't handle life on another planet. Could we possibly quit fighting among ourselves if there were other planets out there doing their thing?
But then we have to go back to, now you'll get me on the soapbox, but then we have to go back to, part of the reason that we fight is because it's a money-making enterprise. It's a profit center for all the corporations that are, have huge lobbyists greasing pockets as fast as they can to, don't want to stop the production of how much money that machine that is war produces. But that's just my opinion.
For those of you listening, anybody that was leaning one way or the other, have we tipped you over to one side now that you look at people's prints? Okay, well, let's add another one. This is Edgar Mitchell, who says he's not personally experienced a UFO encounter, but relies on the reports of his colleagues, friends, and people that have been involved, and they know what's going on. He says when he was growing up, this was a source of belief he had a source of belief. We provided 2 transcripts in his information. I'll play a little bit of this so you can see what his expertise is. This is at a conference.
Which includes a doctorate in aeronautics and astronautics from MIT, selection to the NASA Apollo program, selection to a NASA Apollo program mission, selection to a NASA Apollo moon mission, egress from the capsule on the moon, returning to our world to write several books, found the Institute of Medical Sciences, developed a number of scientific exploration initiatives. A man has received far more awards than I could possibly list here, but which include the Presidential Medal of Freedom nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize and a number of honorary doctorates. And he has something to say to you this morning. I will ask him to come forward now. Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you very much for being here. My story with regard to the disclosure process is very simple. I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, the site of the first UFO crash, alleged UFO crash. And my story is, as a result of growing up there, I was a senior in high school, was going into my senior year in 1947, when one day the Roswell record announced that the alien craft had crashed, and the next day changed that story and said no, the Air Force said that was a weather balloon. And since I was on my way to college with more little things, I didn't pay much attention to it at that point in time. However, my family was in the agribusiness. My grandfather was cattle buyer and sold ranches for ranchers in the area, knew everybody in the area, the Pecos Valley and beyond, sold cattle into Arizona, western Texas, and was eventually known as Bull Mitchell in those parts. And so it was not surprising to me later on that the lore of the area of our friends and the people in Roswell, including the Sheriff's Department, and a military friend of ours, a patron who was also turned out to be a friend of Jesse Marcel, who was the first Air Force officer on the site of the crash. And this Air Force officer was in administration. We were not really involved, and he eventually told me his story. That's how I became involved. So after my Apollo flight, I did very little. I did nothing but the lore of the region up until that point. But after my Apollo flight, when I was back in the area and visiting relatives and friends, some of the people in the area who had been involved, what I call the old timers, who were involved in the 1940s, 1947, and subsequent with the Roswell crash, and people like in the Sheriff's Department who had been to the crash site and were supervising traffic. My friend and friend of our family, the Major, who was an office mate of the administrative function at Walker Air Force Base. These folks, because they had been shushed and told not to talk about their experience by military authority in those days, and on dire consequences if they did, felt that, and here in the 70s, many, many years later, they didn't want to go to the grave with their story. They wanted to tell somebody reliable. And being a local boy and having been in the moon, they considered me reliable enough to whisper in my ear their particular story and their association with the Roswell crash, including the family of the undertaker who provided coffins, for the
alleged alien victims, and others on site who had been involved or knew the story. And of course, eventually I ran into Jesse Marshall Jr., the son of the Jesse Marshall, who was the first military officer on the site, and knew his story, and I knew their story well. And we became friends in later years in this disclosure movement. And at some point, about 10 years ago, and I can't remember what date it was right now, when the disclosure movement was going strongly, I came here to Washington with a Navy commander by the name of Will Miller and Dr. Stephen Greer, and we were able to get an appointment at the Pentagon to talk about what we knew or what we alleged or what we thought we knew, and went and told our story. And the powers that be at the Intelligence Committee of the Joint Chiefs of Staff listened to our story and said, the Admiral said, well, I don't know that story. I don't know that that's true, but I will find out. So we departed, went on our way, and subsequently learned through Dr. Greer and through Will Miller that those stories had been confirmed and that the Admiral had been denied access when he tried to get into the inner workings of that process.
You can see that he has a very broad experience. And when he talks about all of these and we put bits and pieces of this together, he is very down-to-earth, very multitasking, multidimensional thinker. He believes, and his voice absolutely indicates that his statements are true. There is an absolute high level of spirituality surrounding his topic. You can see that in the A-sharp for those of you watching the show as we're doing. And we will have this show up so you can watch it also, not just the audio portion on Blog Talk in a day or so. He very much wants his words to be used to bring enlightenment and education to the public, and that's probably why he started his noetic science group that studies enlightenment. Comments? George, send me, I think I have something on her, but if you have something, send it to me. I think I did something for her at the request of somebody on Rumor Mill News Radio.
I'll add in the comment that I'm always impressed when I see a graph that looks like this on NanoVoice where it's this evenly distributed, I mean, it's impressive to have a thinker that has that much balance in how they're speaking. I don't know the numbers, but in terms of at least looking at the bars and the colors, I mean, he's pretty good in all arenas.
And he's talking about I'm trying to save his picture here. I will just keep it up and get it later. So does that bring you any closer to believing or not believing, or?
I'm not sure who wasn't believing in the crowd. I'd have to see hands raised or something for people to.
So we've some pros, some cons, some nutballs, some very credible. You heard his degrees in physics and whatever. Well, here's somebody who has some degrees. Alex Collier, and he was on a recent show, and he talks about that these aliens are controlling our government and they're going to come and take us all and take over, and there's a double whammy here. So this is a little bit about him explaining on the show Ever Beyond with JP.
Apart from the fact that
That's JP
really
talking.
beloved by many of the world's listening audience who are aching, thirsty for the truth. And so, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Alex Collier. Good afternoon. Hey, JP. Thank you for having me. That was an amazing introduction. Here we are, and there you are, and we've got a lovely line. It's a really nice connection.
This is where he says he's being threatened for releasing this information. You can see the interpretation here. The score of 42 is normal. He's at 166 on ego. And the idea of helping others with this information at the note of D is up in fantasy. So as he goes on, we're going to go through 3 or 4 different files, and you can look at the topic about the future and about him getting threatened. So this is the computer providing this information about the person's voice as we go on here.
It's a beautiful day. How do we,
On a day-to-day, our situation is so very hard. We are doing the very best we can, and to everyone, I felt like I needed to walk away, and I still feel like I need to walk away in order to be able to find some serious help for my family. But that's good.
Now here he's telling the truth, and he's very worried about management and what's going to happen as an outcome. You see A and A sharp, very, very high score, and C sharp, justice, has a doubled score, but A and A sharp are scores that are 4 times higher than normal. Say a little bit more of this piece. Because he goes on to say that aliens are not gods and we should control our own soul and our own destiny. He totally believes that piece.
The economy here in the United States is just horrible. And every week, thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are losing their jobs. Their hours are being cut from 40 hours full time to 29, 28 hours. This is the new full time so that companies don't have to pay Obamacare. It's a mess. It's been very difficult, but at the same time, I felt compelled to come on the show and share some current stat with people about what's going on, because things that we've been talking about the last several years are now beginning to come to pass, and I want to give people a perspective because I don't want this to move into a fear space. It is my hope that they will be able to start putting some pieces together and see the picture, the pattern of what's being created, so that.
Okay, he goes on to talk about this they, and we've talked about this elusive they before, that he doesn't know who they are either, although he claims to know. He claims that he's been in touch with them. This part of his voice begins to totally scatter out. If you see this as literal, you can see he's on several octaves. The only gut level balancing is about wanting to see that humanity is safe. That's true. He wants to help others, got a very high D, 163, and he thinks by telling the story and having them get ready and have a common enemy that he's kind of pulling this all together and doing the best thing that he can for people. So not such a strong nutball as some other people that I've looked at, and they're just totally there for their greed and ego. He really wants to help people by putting this in perspective. Richard, do you have any comment while I pull up the next article.
I like the idea of having perspective. I don't quite see the foundation. I'm looking at the numbers, and I don't quite see the foundation, although that second level, he has some elevated numbers, and he's not so much in fantasy. I was more listening actually to his voice, and it sounded like it would get what I would call a little thin, which usually means that people are, I don't know, something. It's always an indicator to me when I hear that in a voice, when it gets kind of thin.
Well,
and you add that sound to it.
Yes, when you look down at the 17 and -3, that's where a male voice should normally set, -2 and -3. But underneath everything like that, that's gut level. So his normal level is a little higher than it should be. So you could tell here that he's got a few hormone issues, but we're not allowed to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have somehow lost my person that was abducted that we were going to call about, or going to deal with. I had this here. It was about Art Bell, Collier. See if
there's some great stuff happening in chat. I just have to say, for those that we began this thread about, grass-fed cattle being abducted, and I've started I wonder if these humans have only been taking grass-fed beef, and what do they know? And so there's some really, and there's some other really good conversations in chat. For people who want to go in and copy chat, you can go in and hit Control-A and then Control-C and copy it all to a text file or to an email to yourself or wherever you want to put it. I personally put them in my Google Doc and make a document out of it. But there's a lot of fun links in there.
there is so much going on about cattle mutilations, and it's happened here. And so many people have had experiences, and they're afraid to come out because they're afraid people are going to call them nutballs. Okay, this is a caller to Coast Radio who claimed that he was abducted. Now, when you look at his print, doesn't that look like he's telling the truth and there's no ego? Totally missing an ego. The recording of the caller was divided into 2 segments. I'm reading this. The first group was the caller's attempt to respond to Art Bell's, who's a host on Coast to Coast. An attempted explanation by the caller of the government's involvement in UFO visits to Earth. Both parts of the interview are examined below. The first segment displays considerable intellect mixed with spontaneous reactions, the yellow and red columns. The combination indicates improvised reactions for a planned outcome. Now, look at this voice by its numbers that Richard loves. This man is not collected in his thoughts. He has a double primary bass octave, which means this man is very believable to a lot of people, but he lives in his head somewhere. This might be somebody truly mentally unable to cope with being on the human plane. I tried to say that very politely.
Mm-hmm.
A numeric evaluation indicated a scattered perspective. Usually the voice shows a strong foundation with little ego, with a high fantasy score of 318.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You could learn more by what people believe or don't believe. And this guy even broke down and was crying and sobbing. He is in considerable cognitive dissonance. Something did happen to him. He cannot bring it into cohesion. So this is one of the most interesting people I've ever listened to about being abducted. We have one more, and we're out of time. Oh, good grief. I wanted to share Gordon Cooper with people. I will just throw up his file. We won't be able to play it, but we'll put it up here. Boy, I'm trying to look at chat too because it's so interesting. Gordon Cooper is very reserved when you listen to what he's saying. Very, very reserved. He's ambivalent concerning the topic. His voice shows that he's vacillating between mental acuity and a need to share the information. And I have just lost his stuff. Let me find it again.
I think some people might say that is me. And yet a need to share the information.
It takes a certain kind of nutball to be able to air with him.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, yeah.
Cooper states, and this is why I want to put this in here, Cooper states that he actually saw a UFO during training maneuvers and that his crew filmed the landing of a flying saucer at a U.S. at an Air Force base, and it was set there for them to look at it, and where they landed, it was just a matter of course that this thing was setting there. I'm going to put up the link because we don't have time to watch it. Cooper's patterns do not match the thrilling information he's imparting. Very reserved, and it may be that he's just repeated the information a lot. I don't really know. But he's not sharing this lately at all. And he looks very similar to that Canadian Minister of Health. But when you really look at his numbers, he also is in a state of cognitive dissonance about all of this, with the numbers all on that need for a love of humanity and fairness in that note of C#. So when you listen to this and about this UFO sitting there, and he's looking at it and people are walking around it, that should be absolutely incredibly thrilling information. But I think what's going on with the government is they, just like lawyers, if they don't have a good case, they try to come in and attack the person. And I think that that's what's happened to Gordon Cooper all along in what's happening with this. We put the links in for you. I'll have an article for you by morning that we'll put up on the site incorporating all of these folks. I think Edgar Mitchell, of all of them, he is the most credible and the most concerned about what's really going on. And Buzz Aldrin, too, because it was right outside the window of the spacecraft. But he I don't know how he treats it, like fantasy, but like he knows nobody's going to believe him because the government's already undermined it. So is there any that you think is more believable than the other, Richard?
Well, I, for some reason, have a fondness for Buzz Aldrin just because I guess I've watched him so much through my life and a certain level of credibility. And I kind of think that part of the effect is, it's hard to tell. I would put this in the category for the cinematic reference in Men in Black, the flashy thing. I think there's a certain amount of mental manipulation that could happen to any of these people, just in the process, as you say, if they can't get a good case, and they make them try and look like they're nuts, or they're subject to such an intense level of, being pushed to come up with more information, or hypnotized, or altered, or, it's such a, wow, what can be done to the mind. And I'm not saying
reading the transcript of the Canadian guy and reading some of the information that France has released, I would be about 90% sure that we've been visited and the governments know about it.
I would agree with that.
So thank all of you for joining us. That was a quick hour.
That was a quick hour. That was just 10 minutes ago.
Yes, join us for happy hour. Next Tuesday, we're going to do a play on detox and look at people who have fibromyalgia and why they might have fibromyalgia and what we could help them do about it. Remember that on their show, on that show, I should say, that we do vocal profiling live from audience members. So if you can volunteer, that would be great and wonderful. We have a 5-day course coming up in December. We have 4 scholarships available. If you know of anybody who wants to help us put these bioacoustic communities together so that we have information for the communities, we're going to approach these helmet people and tell them that we want to do some PTSD classes. So those of you who are students and can teach that, please volunteer for that program as we put those together in every community. We're also doing programs for radiation software, teaching those classes, teaching people how to monitor themselves. We don't have enough time with just a few thousand people that we have trained to do everybody on the planet. And we really want to help people get healthy and stay healthy, because I don't think we have even skimmed the surface of what's going on in Obamacare and what the administration and the Affordable Health Care Act have in mind for us all. Go watch Soylent Green, and you might have a clue.
Look up SynBio.
Look up SynBio. What does that mean?
It stands for synthetic biology. Just SynBio is what the term is called.
Oh, Richard, you know so much. Let's do a show on it.
I'm trying to get a guest to talk about it.
That sounds incredible.
Gary, fill in the exclusive blank of your choice. Woo! Wow!
Soylent Green will just make you think about what's really going on and what is being controlled. So
yeah, I think actually starting a double bill of Soylent Green and THX 1138 is a nice evening viewing. That will make your mind reel as you think about what the things we talk about and then look at those two films together.
What was the other one, Richard?
THX 1138 was actually George Lucas's first film, major film.
Thanks,
about a feature.
Okay. It was great having all of you here. I think people love the chat more than they do anything else. And we are running some reruns, well, I shouldn't say reruns, some favorite archives for November and December, trying to give people a rest. So we had just found out that the show that we set up to start automatically won't start automatically unless a host comes in. So we'll try to get our, yes, thank you, Richard, for putting that in there. We will try to get our act together. I don't know what's going to be playing, but it's pertinent and things that people have suggested that we do again. So let me know what you like to see. Many thanks for those of you who have written to us saying people you'd like to know about and are they telling the truth. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.